Coming up on our newscast tonight. President Moon Jae-in's diplomacy trip to the UAE is having visible impact in the two nations' ties. Crown Prince of Abu Dhabi vowed to ensure various multi-billion-dollar projects are given to South Korean firms. A heavily guarded train from Pyongyang travels to China, with the identity of the traveler still not confirmed. Speculations run rampant on who could be on board, as that special train was last used by the former North Korean leader to travel to Beijing. South Korea's National Assembly is focused on crafting its own constitutional amendment proposal. Rival parties put their heads together to discuss changes to the current electoral system, the presidential term, and more. News Center begins now. It's 8 p.m. here in Korea, live from our studio in Seoul. This is Arirang News Center. Welcome to our program. I'm Daniel Choi. President Moon Jae-in wraps up his 4-day visit to the United Arab Emirates during a rare visit to South Korea's special forces operating in the Gulf nation. The Liberal leader highlighted the Akh Unit is the key link in Seoul-Abu Dhabi cooperation. Here's Moon Geon-young traveling with the president with our top story.
The United Arab Emirates, although its ties with South Korea stretches back nearly 40 years, it's only been in the last decade or so that the relationship got stronger. Well, that partnership just got bumped up to a whole new level. Roughly an hour's drive from the center of Abu Dhabi is a small town of Suayan. It's where South Korean Special Forces team operates under the name Akh, which means brother in Arabic. The 140 Special Forces received a rare special guest Tuesday. Their commander-in-chief is South Korean President Moon Jae-in. Mr. Moon, a former Special Forces soldier himself, could not hide his sense of pride in his elite unit, touting them as a key link in South Korea-UAE relations. He said Crown Prince Mohammed had spoken in high regard of the Akh Unit, saying it has served as a cornerstone in raising their bilateral cooperation to a whole new level. South Korea's commander-in-chief said it was the presence of the Akh Unit that elevated the South Korea-UAE relations to a special strategic partnership. Meanwhile, senior Blue House officials traveling with the president unveiled that the powerful Crown Prince of Abu Dhabi, following his one-on-one with the South Korean President Moon Jae-in, ordered his aides to grant $25 billion worth of projects to South Korean firms. Sources familiar with the situation say these are contracts that had been put on hold by the UAE over its objections regarding a possible change to a secret defense cooperation deal made between Seoul and Abu Dhabi under the Yi administration in 2009. If true, the $25 billion green light from Crown Prince may be a signal that any kind of issues there may have had been, whether military or not, President Moon has managed to smooth out during his 4-day trip to the Gulf nation. From mending the fences to building trust and friendship between the two countries, the two leaders, it looks like President Moon Jae-in leaves with what he came for, al-Rafiq Qabl al-Tariq, to choose a companion for a long journey ahead. From Abu Dhabi, the UAE, Moon Geon-young, Arirang News.
The leaders of South Korea and Dubai have pledged to boost their bilateral cooperation in areas including information technology, space development, and preparing for the Fourth Industrial Revolution. The agreement was reached in a meeting today between President Moon Jae-in and the Dubai's ruler, Mohammed bin Rashid Al Maktoum, who's also the Prime Minister of the UAE. President Moon also attended the South Korea-UAE Business Forum, where he noted the similarities of the two countries' economic development and stressed the importance of the friendship the two countries share. He also offered some encouragement to local Korean business leaders in the role they play in cultivating a strategic partnership between South Korea and the UAE, and pledged that their businesses will continue to have the support of the Korean government. A high-ranking North Korean official reportedly arrived in Beijing late Monday on board a special train used by the regime's former leader. Extra tight security has raised speculation that the visitor could be Kim Jong-un. Whoever it is, the latest from Reuters is that the train has already left the Chinese capital. Lee Jung-yeon has the full story.
Reports suggest a high-ranking North Korean official has paid a visit to Beijing, and that person may have been the regime's leader, Kim Jong-un. Citing unidentified sources, Bloomberg reported Monday that North Korean leader Kim Jong-un made a surprise trip to Beijing, but said it had no further details. A motorcade was seen in the Chinese capital after 10 o'clock Monday night, heading from the Great Hall of the People towards Diaoyutai State Guest House, where North Korean leaders have previously stayed. Japanese media reported a special train was spotted similar to the one used by former North Korean leader Kim Jong-il for his China visit. Security around the city was extra tight, with several trains delayed and tourists cleared from the area near Tiananmen Square. On Tuesday morning, the motorcade was spotted leaving the guest house and heading north, possibly to Chinese government offices. At this point, the visit may already be over. The latest report by Reuters cites a witness saying the North Korean train left Beijing Tuesday afternoon. A Chinese military source told Reuters that the possibility of the visitor being Kim Jong-un cannot be ruled out. But South Korean media also suggest it could have been Kim Jong-un's sister, Kim Yo-jong, or North Korea's de facto second-in-command, Choi Ryong-hae. South Korea's presidential office says it's been aware of a trip of this kind since a few days ago, but does not know exactly who the visitor or visitors were. But it also says an improvement in North Korea-China relations ahead of the relay summits would be a positive sign. China's foreign ministry says it knows nothing about the supposed visit, while Washington says it cannot verify those reports. Lee Jung-yeon, Arirang News.
Well, the focus of media around the world is on finding out who the high-profile North Korean figure is. The more important question might be why and how this visit came to be. Oh Jung-hee delves deeper into the trip shrouded in secrecy to bring us some answers.
So far, nothing's been confirmed about who the secret visitor is or why they came so suddenly. On Tuesday, Tokyo-based Sankei Shimbun quoted an unnamed Chinese Communist Party official who reported that indeed it is Kim Jong-un. Sankei reported he was visiting for 2 days to meet with various officials in China's Communist Party and that North Korea and China started organizing the visit early in the year. Some South Korean experts agree it could be Kim Jong-un since they say no other North Korean high-level figure would use the special train used by the regime's former leader, Kim Jong-il. If true, then this would be Kim Jong-un's first known trip overseas since he took power in 2011. But others suggest it could be Kim Yo-jong, the leader's sister. Kim Jong-un has been trying to build an image of North Korea as China's diplomatic equal, so they say he wouldn't want to sneak into Beijing for his first face-to-face meetings with the Chinese leadership. Plus, Kim Yo-jong is one of her brother's trusted political aides. She was also sent to South Korea as a special envoy during the Olympics. But regardless of who it is, it's noteworthy that this visit comes ahead of Pyongyang's summits with Seoul and Washington in April and May. Experts think the relatively strained relations between North Korea and China have done nothing to help either side ahead of those historic talks.
China is North Korea's most reliable supporter, so it would not benefit North Korea to hold summit talks with South Korea and the U.S. while its relations with China are cold. So North Korea is preparing a base to lean on.
For North Korea, it's crucial to consider what happens if its talks with Seoul and Washington end in failure, in which case it could potentially seek a Chinese commitment to future support. Oh Jung-hee, Arirang News.
South Korea has named its 3-person team for the high-level talks with the North scheduled for Thursday. Seoul had revealed previously that Unification Minister Cho Myung-gyun would lead the delegation. It's now confirmed that he'll be accompanied by the Vice Unification Minister Chun Hae-sung and Cheongwade's top press secretary Yoon Young-chan. The North Korean delegation will be led by Lee Sun-kwon, the head of Pyongyang's reunification committee. No word yet on the rest of the team, though. Thursday's talks are expected to help fine-tune details such as the date of the historic meeting as well as the agenda. Further details of the South Korean pop concerts to be held in Pyongyang next week are announced. 2 more artists have been added and the inclusion of a taekwondo demonstration team is now confirmed. We turn to our Kwon Jang-ho for the updated list.
With 5 days to go until the first South Korean pop concert on North Korean soil in 13 years, the final details are falling in place. The South Korean government announced on Tuesday that the size of the delegation has been increased to 190 members, 30 more than originally agreed with Pyongyang. The delegation consists of artists, stage staff, government officials, and members of the press, but the increase comes primarily due to the confirmation that a taekwondo demonstration team will also be performing in Pyongyang. The taekwondo team is scheduled to perform separately from the pop concerts on April 1st and 2nd, and during the second performance, they are slated to take the stage with their North Korean counterparts. 2 more artists have been added to the concert roster, folk singer Kang San-hye and jazz pianist Kim Kwang-min. They will join 9 other artists, including pop legend Jo Yong-pil and Lee Sun-hee, as well as the K-pop female idol group Red Velvet. Seoul said others could be added to the lineup at the last minute, but contrary to widespread anticipation, one artist that won't be joining them is global sensation Psy. Authorities didn't specify why it didn't work out, but they said they hope for different opportunities with the star who sang Gangnam Style in the future. Further details on transport were also announced. A preparatory team of 70 members, mostly stage staff and government officials, will leave on Thursday, along with a separate plane for stage and music equipment. The rest of the delegation will leave on Saturday. Commercial passenger and cargo planes will be chartered for the teams, taking them directly from Seoul to Pyongyang. The concerts will take place on Sunday and Tuesday afternoon, with the delegation returning to South Korea in the evening after their second performance. Kwon Jang-ho, Arirang News.
Changes are in the works for South Korea's constitution, but there's no guarantee they'll go through. The government has already submitted its own proposal, and the leaders of the country's major parties started talks today to craft their own version. But they're deeply divided over what kind of changes need to be made and when. Kim Min-ji has the latest from the National Assembly.
The floor leaders from the country's 3 major parties are rolling up their sleeves for earnest negotiations from Tuesday to craft a proposal on amending the constitution. They agreed to make concrete efforts a day earlier, after President Moon Jae-in submitted his own proposal, adding extra pressure on the National Assembly for its lack of urgency on the matter. The 3 parties will discuss the most contentious areas: the power structure, electoral system, reform of power organs, and timing of a referendum. The ruling Democratic Party of Korea says it's willing to engage in in-depth discussions with the opposition, adding that now is a time for the rival parties to put aside their political interests and think only of the people when crafting a proposal. The party also stressed that it's the people's wish to hold a referendum alongside local elections in June, and that if they lose this opportunity, public interest in the matter could wane. However, the main opposition Liberty Korea party remains strongly against holding a referendum in tandem with the local elections, saying the government and ruling bloc is seeking to foster a favorable environment to win votes. The Conservative Party also said it will cooperate with other opposition parties in order to change the presidential system to give more authority to a prime minister. The centrist Padamita Party said that while it would be best to hold a referendum in June, the content of the amendment is more important than the timing. It also noted that the core of the revision should be changing the power structure to reduce the president's massive powers, calling on the ruling and main opposition parties to take a responsible stance in negotiations. Should the parties fail to reach a consensus on a proposal of their own, they will have to put the president's proposal up for a vote in late May. But for it to take effect, it requires 2/3 backing from the country's 293 lawmakers and a majority approval in a referendum. Eyes will be on the National Assembly over the next month to see whether they can strike a last-minute deal on a proposal of their own. Kim Min-ji, Arirang News.
Korea's consumer sentiment index hit a 7-year high back in November. Unfortunately, steady declines have been recorded ever since, mainly due to fears of brewing trade protectionism policies. Kim Hye-sung breaks down the digits for us.
South Korea's consumer sentiment fell for a 4th consecutive month in March. According to the Bank of Korea, the composite consumer sentiment index edged down 0.1 points from the previous month to 108.1, the lowest level since October. The reading is well above 100, meaning there are still more optimists than pessimists. But a sub-index on households' perception of the current domestic economic conditions dropped to a 6-month low of 87 index points in March, while the sub-index for future prospects inched down 1 point from February's 98. The central bank attributed the fall to growing worries over trade protectionism and the U.S.-China trade spat that could hurt Korean exports to the world's first and second largest economies.
Domestically, the restructuring of local shipbuilding companies and the GM Korea crisis have dampened consumer confidence. A fall in oil prices and rental housing prices, however, helped limit the drop in the Consumer Sentiment Index to 0.1 points on month in March.
The survey respondents were less pessimistic about future job searches, which climbed 1 index point from February to record 94. The expected inflation rate over the next 12 months was 2.6% in March, holding steady since January. Kim Hae-sung, Arirang News.
The Theodore Roosevelt Carrier Strike Group has entered the U.S. 7th Fleet Area of Operation, which includes the Korean Peninsula. Though it's part of the nuclear-powered behemoth's regularly scheduled deployment, some observers view it as a move to amp up military pressure on North Korea ahead of summit talks. Park Ji-won explains further.
According to the official U.S. Navy website and the official website for the U.S. 7th Fleet, the Nimitz-class nuclear-powered aircraft carrier USS Theodore Roosevelt and its Carrier Strike Group has entered the 7th Fleet Area of Operation, which encompasses the two Koreas, Japan, China, and Russia. The USS Theodore Roosevelt left its home port of San Diego, California last October and successfully completed about 4 months of operations in the Arabian Gulf and Red Sea. The Carrier Strike Group will conduct a range of maritime operations with the navies of U.S. partners and allies in the region to enhance security cooperation and interoperability. With the USS Theodore Roosevelt entering the 7th Fleet's area of responsibility, a total of 3 nuclear-powered aircraft carriers, the Roosevelt, the USS Ronald Reagan, which is permanently forward deployed to the area, and the USS Carl Vinson are currently deployed in the area. The U.S. has reportedly decided not to include drills involving aircraft carriers during this year's annual joint military exercises with Seoul starting next month. Yet some watchers say deploying 3 aircraft carriers in the region could be seen as an attempt to put pressure on Pyongyang ahead of possible talks between the U.S. and North Korea. The U.S. 7th Fleet is the largest forward-deployed U.S. fleet, made up of over 60 ships and submarines, some 140 aircraft, and some 20,000 Navy personnel, covering more than 120 million square kilometers in the Western Pacific and Indian Oceans. Park Ji-won, Arirang News.
The case of foot-and-mouth disease at a pig farm near the nation's capital was confirmed by Korea's Agriculture Ministry. There have been reports of the virus before, but the country is on a high alert as this is the first time the rare A-type variant has been discovered. For details, let's turn to our Park Hee-jun.
A rare type of the foot-and-mouth disease has been detected at a pig farm near Seoul on Tuesday. According to the Ministry of Agriculture, Food and Rural Affairs, a farm in Gimpo, 40 kilometers northwest of Seoul, tested positive for the A-type virus. Foot-and-mouth disease is a highly infectious viral disease. Livestock with the disease show symptoms of fever, followed by sores in the mouth and blisters on the hands and feet. It can spread rapidly without proper measures and can have a significant economic impact. The case is the first outbreak of the disease since February last year. Among the 7 distinct types of foot and mouth disease, most cases in Korea involve the O-type virus. And although the A-type was found in cattle farms a few years back, this is the first time it's been detected at a pig farm. After confirmation of the A-type virus, which is rare not only in Korea but worldwide, the country has been on an emergency alert, especially as most animals haven't been vaccinated for the highly contagious strain. Prime Minister Lee Na-kyun gave the order for all available resources to focus on quarantine measures. More than 900 pigs in the farm have already been slaughtered after the initial test, and more will be culled within 3 kilometers of the farm to prevent the disease from spreading. The ministry has also issued a 48-hour standstill on the movement of livestock and breeders in the nearby region. Park Hee-jun, Arirang News.
Fine dust blanketed over the nation for the past few days. Amid continuing efforts to tackle the health threat, the government announced plans to change the environmental standards. Kim Mo-kyun outlines for us the possible impact of this new measure.
Korea is under another emergency ultrafine dust reduction measure on Tuesday. To raise awareness of the problem, the nation's Environment Ministry said Monday that it would lower the current threshold for ultrafine dust levels to be classified as bad from the current 50 to 35 micrograms per cubic meter per day to raise its standards to that of the US and Japan. And there's growing public anxiety over the worsening fine dust levels. As of 3 p.m., more than 130,000 people have signed a petition on the Cheongwade website demanding the presidential office to come up with a diplomatic solution to the problem, claiming the cause of the pollution is the dust coming from China. Recently, several reports have shown that one of the major causes of the deteriorating air quality in Korea is fine dust coming from China. A report released by the National Institute of Environmental Research showed that external factors had a large effect on the air quality in Seoul, with fine dust coming from overseas, including China, causing up to 57% of the air pollution. The ministry says that in the short term, the severe conditions are likely to clear up by Wednesday evening. But a meteorological expert says that in the long term, there is a possibility that high levels of fine dust could continue over the next couple of months.
We are expecting to see less wind and rain in May. With the yellow dust expected to blow across the peninsula, the fine dust problem could worsen.
Kim Mo-kyun, Arirang News.
Time to turn to Michelle back at the Weather Center for the updates you need. Michelle, conditions were quite suffocating in terms of air quality. Any chances of Mother Nature stepping up to provide us with some relief from the pesky particulate matter?
Well, Daniel, in fact, the central region was put under fine dust emergency measures for the second day in a row. Both fine dust and ultrafine dust particles have blanketed the regions today. And as we speak, ultrafine dust levels are still high over in the upper parts of the country. Now, these conditions are expected to continue until tomorrow, but fortunately, there will be some wind that will help clear the air. Now, meanwhile, the mercury continues to rise, with Seoul starting out the morning at 9 degrees Celsius. Chuncheon and Daegu starts at lower temperatures at 6 and 7 degrees, respectively, while Busan rises to 11 degrees. Under a cloudless and bright skies, Seoul tops out to 18 degrees during the day, while Gwangju and Busan peaks up to 22 and 19 degrees. Now, for the central region, the clear sunny skies is expected to shine throughout the week until Sunday morning. Now, meanwhile, readings are expected to stay above the seasonal average for the time being. I'll leave you with the weather conditions around the world.
That's all we have for you on tonight's edition of Arirang News Center. Wherever you may be tuning in from, thank you for staying with us.